in early career, there's almost no bad moves because you're so fresh. You have the most energy and optimism you'll ever have in your career on average.
Can guarantee.
Yeah, can guarantee. All right, everybody, welcome back to Firm Factor. Today in studio, Carolyn and I are going to be going over mailbag questions. So we get a ton of questions from law firm owners, attorneys, law students, characters of all shapes, sizes, and varieties. And I think every week it's really valuable, or every couple weeks it's really valuable to come in, go through the best ones, and see what our thoughts are on where everyone is in their careers and how we can give you a little bit of advancement. And it's pretty entertaining. Carolyn, how are you doing today?
Good. How about you?
Oh, never better. And I think no matter how many times I see the same recurring themes, it always feels really good to help people out. If you have any questions that you want to submit to the show, email questions@time.org. We're always happy to hear from you. You might even get a response back. No promises. Let's get started. Question 1. Hey, Carolyn, we're moving back to the office and leadership is treating physical presence as a stand-in for engagement. But showing up doesn't improve performance unless there's a real reason to be together in one place. How do you challenge the assumption that presence equals productivity?
Well,
That's a great question.
Well, we were just talking about this earlier, even today, about being in the office, because we had met with a UW student, and she had said, "Can I come into the office?" Well, go kids, yeah. Had asked about, we have a hybrid work schedule. Are people able to come in more than our schedule allows? And the answer is, of course.
Yeah, of course. But it can have I think the question is, like, what are the impacts that coming into the office can have for a team or for an individual's career?
Yes.
I think that's what the viewer is really getting at.
Yeah, and it's hard because I actually disagree that I do think being in the office does help your career long term. I think you're able to have conversations with people that you would not have otherwise. So my position about back to office, I know it's a very big subject, particularly in the Seattle area with all the tech going back. Amazon's completely back to office. And I know it's a big conversation amongst firms that all went back.
Traffic is now bad 5 days a week instead of 3.
It's amazing. What else can we want? And an I-5 closure.
Thank you, Jeff Bezos.
Yes. But my position is probably not what most people want to hear. And I do think it makes a difference being in office. And
is that from, because you point to both from a productivity perspective for law firm owners,
yes,
but also from a career advancement perspective for employees.
Yep.
What are you talking about there?
So I think it's harder to build a relationship via video. And that's just, it's not to say you can't. You have to be more intentional in your communications and over communicate and all of that good stuff. But you're missing those natural interactions that happen within an office. I think about myself and Steve, our main partner in the office. I see him almost every day.
Four or 5 times a week,
yes.
Right? On
and
average?
So, and it's, I helped him pick out his tie for our photo shoot yesterday. It's just, you have more touch bases with the people that matter, and you're able to learn little details about their lives and the way they work and all of that a lot easier.
And I think I'm actually on the same page as you. So I used to be of the opposite mind. I was like, it makes no difference for productivity.
Yes.
It shouldn't matter to anybody whether or not I could do my work from home or work from the office. And I think the nuance here is that you can if you have an established role and love where you're at, and you could be effective and focused out of office,
great,
amazing. Yeah. Like we're not coming after anyone for feeling that way. But if the goal is career optimization, you want to learn in person as much as possible. And to be clear, I'm not even saying that that's like fair, right? Because it's just the way it is. It doesn't mean that's the way I think it should be necessarily.
Just not found a workaround in society yet.
We've just not found a workaround because in a service business, it's all about relationships and FaceTime.
It is.
Right? And in our office, this was not, I don't want to say a fight because it wasn't a fight, but a point of disagreement between me and Steve when we got our new physical location here in Capitol Hill was that, like, Steve was like, I want everyone at least 2 days a week. And I'm like, that's gonna kill morale. Everyone likes the flexibility. And then everyone came in, and not only did our billables improve significantly across the entire team because everyone was more focused. There was some separation from their homework, home life and workspace.
Which I like, I will say. That's a huge reason of why I like office.
Too. Yeah. But more importantly, it helped us train people and it helped us get to know one another in less abstract terms, which is only a good thing. And it's helped me as a manager know who to promote based on their engagement because I just have more data about them.
Totally. Yeah.
And maybe you might at home might criticize that, like, hey, you have better workers that are just remote and they don't communicate as, in the way that you're looking. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. But us as managers have limited data, and we work with the data and information we have. And if you're looking, and especially if you're early career, if you're a law student, find a way to work with management in person as much as possible.
I agree. Yeah. And I will say the final thing on that is that it is interesting, as I've heard across firms that while, and again, this is not standard, our firm is, again, most people are in the office.
We're hybrid. Yeah,
yes,
2 days a week. Yeah.
Which is great. But I have heard some, again, just issues, we'll say, with associates being required to come into office and then partners aren't in there, even with this back to work thing. And so that's a conflict, I feel like, as well, where it's like they want to come in for the mentorship and to show face and build those relationships. But if the partners aren't in the office, I think
that's a huge piece, because the more senior you are, the more important and integral your role is in Hemet Law, the more often you're in office.
Yep.
Right. Management is always here to see you if you show up. And I agree. I think that's horseshit. Honestly, is when they say everyone come into the office,
but only some of you.
But only some of you,
Yes.
and only the people that make me money.
Yeah.
I will be on my yacht in the Mediterranean.
Yep.
Come find me, on Zoom if you need me. That's a real contradiction. It speaks to culture, and it also
agree.
means that they don't actually care about. If I wasn't in office, I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not there to get to know you, then I'm not going to ask you to show up either. And I think that's a really
the balance of the two. Yeah.
That's a real good balance. I think law firm owners need to be really careful that they don't invite a hypocritical comparison by accident. Like and follow the show if you're enjoying it, and we'll be right back. Support for the show comes from LegalRev. They don't just market law firms, they grow them. With smart SEO, Google Ads, web design, and AI-ready search strategies, they make sure your next client finds you first. If you're ready to win online, go to LegalRev.com/factor. That's LegalRev.com/factor. And now to continue the conversation. Question 2. I'm in a litigation role I never wanted, buried after major turnover, expected to deliver near perfect work with almost no guidance, and criticized for missing unspoken expectations I didn't know about. I'm grieving a personal loss, barely sleeping, and watching my confidence disappear. Is this a sign I'm not cut out to be an attorney, or is something else going on? Okay, I think I'll take point on this one. First off, protect your health. I think wherever you are and whatever role you're going towards, there's no sunk cost that can justify you killing your piece for any role.
You're only as good as you are.
Yeah, and mentally. Yeah, you can't be the top. You can't be a good attorney for the sake of your clients if you're in shambles in your personal life.
Yep.
So let's make that very clear as the first foundational part of my answer, is that you got to take care of yourself. Second off, I don't think you have enough information. I don't think the listener has enough information to know if they're cut out for a litigation role, because it's only been a year and only been in one place with no training, no guidance, and a terrible management structure. Law firms are terrible at management. They don't know. They don't know what attorneys need. They don't know how they need it. They have often lost perspective on what it was like to be new to the legal industry, because they've been breathing the air for like 500 years, 38 years. Yes. Yeah. I mean, this happened with me and Steve when we started Hemet Law. At that time, he was 33 years into practice. Right, which was 10 more years than my natural lifespan at that point when I joined the office, and so it was understandably hard for him at times to understand that someone didn't know what a complaint was.
Yep.
Right, that they didn't know what.
It's easy to forget what you know when the person doesn't know.
Which is actually a known and documented phenomena in any technical. Like PhDs and professors are known to not have perspective on what the layman is aware of.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And that's doubly so in attorney roles, because management is not taught. They are never taught how to
manage, train, all of that stuff.
And so my perspective, my perspective would be like the following: is that one, protect yourself. Two, this is no reflection on you. And three, don't be afraid to lateral. There's lots of great opportunities out there. And just because you're unhappy in one role doesn't mean you won't be happy in another, even in the same industry.
Yep.
Right. But remember that there's nothing wrong. You're a year into practice. You haven't been pigeonholed into a specialty yet, which is a risk at like 10 years. But that's a very real phenomenon. We'll video for another time. But you're nowhere near that line. Carolyn, what are your thoughts?
Very far away from that line.
Yeah. Carolyn, what are your thoughts?
I would agree. I think that there's a lot of variables at play. I do think, again, lateraling is always an opportunity. It's a great opportunity. So many firms are run, in different ways. I think about, some conversations I've had with people who have joined us. And it's, firms are very different. Culture's very different. I think it's even different from West Coast to East Coast.
Oh, yeah.
But obviously, I mean, you are going through a very difficult time, which totally acknowledge. And honestly, like that sometimes just happens in your career. And again, protect your peace, protect yourself. All of that is most important. But I think also weighing out, what gives you energy and what depletes you. And it's like, if there are elements of your job that are depleting you, it's like, is that 90% of your job? Is that something that can be changed by a different practice group, a different firm, all of the things that you were saying with lateraling? Or is it the practice itself? Are you able to find, things that give you energy and bring happiness to your day?
And that's an interesting converse, because what if it's the opposite?
Yeah.
What if the problem isn't like the management? What if it's the practice itself?
It could be.
It could be.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of variables. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of variables. And I think a good fallback is that our head of production, Sam.
Yes.
When I was interviewing him a long time ago.
Yes.
He gave me an analogy of like a fishing boat, which is to say, like, when you're searching for more information or a better fit or a better practice, is that you just have to go in one direction and take depth measurements every like 10 feet. Right. And then when the water starts getting shallower again, you just turn 90 degrees and go in that direction and take depth measurement. And then over time, with just enough trial and error, you'll find the deepest water. Right. And in early career, there's almost no bad moves because you're so fresh. You have the most energy and optimism you'll ever have in your career on average.
Can guarantee.
Yeah, can guarantee. and that you got to get out of your own head and make a move one way or another, because the B plus scenario is the worst scenario, right? This doesn't sound like a B plus, but like the risk of anyone in an unhappy circumstance is that it's just tolerable enough. Just tolerable enough not to do anything.
And that's how you get stuck.
Right?
You don't even realize it when you're in the moment.
Yeah, a B or a B plus is worth sacrificing on the chance of an A plus.
I agree.
Because once you find that place, that team, that practice area that gives you life, what does it feel like to come home from work and suddenly be more energized than you were when you left? Which is something that not a lot of people have. I'm fortunate enough to have it in my practice.
I would say the same.
Yeah, but that's something that I can't even communicate in words to someone else, because I have friends who like are smart, in my opinion, smarter, faster, stronger than I am. And they come home and they're juiced like an orange for one reason or another. And they're just like, sorry, I have no energy. I have to stare at a wall for 6 hours.
Totally.
And I'm like, you deserve better.
But you don't know what it's like on the other side until you're on the other side and you're like, why did I stay there so long?
Why did I stay there? It's a tough circumstance. I think my response would be, take care of yourself. Right? We're not as worried about your future as you are. Your effort has not been wasted.
Yay.
Hell yeah. That was awesome. You're killing it,
okay.
dude. Does it feel
I just feel more calm, like mentally. Thank God.
Well,
Sam, that was good advice if that's from you.
Oh yeah.
I was going to say someone's a smart guy. Yeah.
That's one of my cornerstones.
I love it.
Just look for data.
No.
In one direction.
Yeah.
Well, my methodology is a little different than Sam's, is that I find another fishing boat and I copy them as closely as I can. And even if we'll
paint it the same, yeah.
we'll find you're probably in the wrong water, so you probably won't get the same results they will.
Yeah.
But you'll get a baseline faster than if you did it by random chance.
Yeah.
That's been a lot of my philosophy for social media. And it's gotten us a couple of big hits, and you only need to get a good format score once or twice.
That's
and
crazy.
You can make an entire career out of it. We'll be right back. Support for the show comes from Time. Time captures every billable email on cases and turns them into client-friendly time entry descriptions completely hands-free. No more lost time, no more pre-billing reviews, just up to 30% more revenue. Get a free demo at thyme.org/factor. That's time.org/factor. Thanks for your patience. Welcome back. Question 3. Hey, Carolyn. I relocated for my first legal job and was let go about a month in with no warning and little explanation. Training was minimal, expectations were unclear, and asking questions felt completely unwelcome. Now I'm trying to recover financially and mentally while planning next steps. How should someone handle being let go this early, and how do you explain or position this experience in future interviews? Love the show. Appreciate all you're doing.
Well, obviously, it probably feels difficult in the moment, but honestly, it's what you make of the opportunity. It's not to sound cheesy, but it's like every door closed is one that opens. And so I'm very much a believer that things happen for a reason. And so honestly, you might have just gotten the golden ticket out of a really bad firm. So think about it in that sense. Don't overthink, the I could, should have, could have, would have type thing. But I do think as you move on, I mean, this happens to a lot of people. It's like we're in a tough job market. There's layoffs. There's so many different factors that are just out of our control. And so your main job is positioning it to your next firm in the best way possible. And it's just not dramatically, honestly within reason, but also saying, it's like, hey, it was not a mutual fit. I would never drag the other firm. I would just, move forward. You're only as good as your next step.
Yep.
So,
and I think that's important. One, this isn't on you. Right. Yep. It's not on them. One, that's not on them. Two, even if it's not on them, don't drag the old firm.
Yep.
Even if they were monsters.
Terrible people. Yeah.
Even if it wasn't that long, but even if they were terrible people, your career trajectory is so long and the community is so small that it's not worth the temporary satisfaction of getting a good dunk when it may
100%.
It may cost you potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in opportunity costs later that you maybe don't even know about.
Yep.
So like my caution is tread carefully, speak respectfully. You want to be known as someone who speaks well about people behind their back, even if they don't deserve it, and especially if they don't deserve it. But I want to circle back and say that it's like, this is on management. When I hire someone, if that person turns out to be a bad fit, that is never on that person. That's on me for not triaging the opportunity better. Right. So this either was two ways. Either one, they hired and they didn't have the businesses to support the role, in which case they're bad managers. Or two, they hired and they found such a terrible fit that it doesn't work after 1 month, in which case they are terrible hiring managers. And so either way, it doesn't sound like this is the viewer's fault. Yeah. But either way, it's not on them. Right.
I agree.
You should feel good about your worth as a person. Being fired never feels good. There's really no good way to, like, when I've fired people, I've always chosen to do it over email, which I know is a controversial take, but I do it over email because I'm always very respectful. I'm always very nice. We always tell people, how great they've been for the firm, and I always offer them severance and more and better than we left them. Right. But I do that so that it never feels like we're talking down to them, because when you fire someone in person, you have to read from a script. And so in the legal industry, my controversial opinion is that it's slightly better to be fired in a respectful writing medium than it is to be brought in before a tribunal and then read the riot act and then escorted out of the building. Are either of these methods very humane? I would argue no, but
there's no good way to do it.
But there's no good way to do it. And I think that I know you've done it very differently in the past.
I do it, in person.
Tell me more about your firing process.
Yeah, and so usually it was a script. I remember, I think the first person that I had to let go, granted I was friends with the HR director, and she had me do a practice run with her of my entire script and all of that, so I didn't have to reference the script as heavily. And so that helped me build more confidence with that first fire. It's never easy to fire someone. So I don't know. I think also it depends on the relationship you have with the person. And I don't know. I think on the couple situations that I've been in, I was directly working with them and like massively overseeing their work and working towards like usually on a performance action plan. And so that felt more fitting to be like, hey, I know we've talked about this weekly for weeks now. This probably should not be a surprise to you type thing. So I think it just depends on the context, how close you are with the person.
I mean, and I think the key here is that I have tried really hard to make sure that no matter how you do it, it's never a surprise. Yeah. It never feels good. But I've always tried to give at least 3 or 4 very strong, clear flag signals, meetings, conversations about XYZ issue. We need ABC improvement by EFG time, right? And then if we don't meet them,
it's up to the person.
Then it's up to the person at that point, and there's not much you could do. And so I do that in writing, because then it lays everything out in a nice, one place, and then they get to stay at home and and sit with it. I try to fire people on Mondays rather than Fridays, because everyone fires on Fridays because they're like, oh, give them the weekend. But the problem is, if you fire on a Friday, all the hiring offices are closed, and so what you've done is you've just destroyed their ability to seize any autonomy for several days after they've been fired. Do it on a Monday. Be humane. Be respectful, and that goes for law firms too. You should be respectful to the people, even if you think they're monsters, because that speaks to who you are and other candidate, and if that's not enough for you, keep in mind that other candidates will know how you treat applicants when you walk them out the door.
Yep.
But I think overall, there's really no good way out.
No, there never is.
There never is. Yeah, but keep your head up. If you were let go after a month, one way or another, it's always on management. It really depends on how things are going. And 1 month tells me they were absolute monsters and not worth your time.
Yep.
Question 4. Hey, John, I'm early in my career and burned out after pushing through health issues instead of slowing down. At the time, pausing felt risky as a junior lawyer trying to prove myself. Now my health is slipping again and my firm hasn't been very supportive. I've been offered another role that's viewed as a strong opportunity, but I don't feel ready to step into it. Is it reasonable to take a career break this early, even if it means passing something up? I think, and Carolyn will actually have more to say about this than I will, but Carolyn, my thought is that health is most important. And we don't know the basis of the health crisis.
Makes it hard. Yeah.
It makes it hard, but I think what it sounds like is that it sounds chronic. And it sounds like this person's baseline is shifting, which is always a terrible. I have friends with chronic health concerns, and when their baseline shifts, it just feels like the most draining, awful experience ever, because you already are a person who perceives their own limitations so acutely. And then all of a sudden to see the control you've built for yourself be taken away from you further always feels awful. And in an industry like the legal industry, where we are constantly running on one treadmill or another, it can leave little room for compromise. So what I will say is take care of your health. And what your management team is thinking right now is, if they're compassionate, is, oh my God, how terrible, but I'm going to be charitable to the management team and say, but we have targets to meet, right? And we have to, even if while there are reasonable accommodations we can make, we still have to hold you to the same standards as everyone else. Now, it doesn't sound like they're having
performance issues
yet, but it just sounds like they're not budging on those expectations. And that's a really tough balancing act to play. I would love for you to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think I agree that it's like, a business is only, you have, at the end of the day, a business is a business. And so like the line has to be the same for all employees. And that's where you get into a mix if it's not. But I do think, I agree with health, all of that. And I also wonder too, it's like, can you push back on the next opportunity and say like, hey, like I'm willing to do this, but I need some time off in between. It's a very rare opportunity. And I've had someone that's had 2 career breaks that were both chosen, and I came back a whole different person. I backpacked Europe during one. And so I don't know, it's just a very rare time in your adult life that you will have no responsibilities, and it's like it just helps you come back as a refreshed person. So that would be the first step I would take, is if you do feel like it's your current role, or if you're excited for this next step, try to push and see if there's anything you can do with that opportunity. And then, if not,
and always hold,
maybe not.
and maybe not, but always hold the relationship. Because that hiring manager, this won't be the only job that hiring manager will have for the rest of the time. Right? It could come back 2 years from now.
That's a really good
point.
point.
5 years from now. So never ghost hiring managers whenever possible.
Or recruiters.
Exactly. And I think I've personally never taken a career break, and that's because I draw a lot of value from what I do at the office. But I understand that's a very unique perspective and not scalable advice to 95% of the population. Just go through it, bro, is not very helpful to anybody. And I would second the opportunity to really slow down and take this opportunity to dedicate yourself to yourself, because you'll chances are you'll have a family later in your career. You'll have responsibilities or a mortgage that will tie you in place. That seems to be a pretty crazy upside to take advantage of that right now. And if you've already got, and if a lateral opportunity has already fallen on your lap in your early career, that's a strong indicator.
It definitely is. I would agree.
Yeah, I think you're in a good place. Thanks so much, guys. That's it for today. If you have questions you want us to feature on the show, email questions@time.org or send us a voice note. That would be awesome. We get a lot of emails and DMs, but we don't get any voice notes yet. I guess that's because we're on TikTok and Instagram. But send us voice note. Send us something so that we could put you on the show. We would love to hear from you, answer your questions. And I think I want to do a few more questions from law firm leaders. I want to do a nice mix next time. But thanks so much for listening, guys. We will see you soon.